Yes, security is a challenge. It's a challenge for this country right now. I address our men and women of the armed forces at the airport this afternoon, assuring them that we will do everything to fight terrorism and banditry. Yes, we will invest more in technology. We will take over all our forests. We must neutralize kidnapping, banditry, and terrorism. It was never like this before in Nigeria. It's not just a local problem. It is a national problem. We truly need investment to come into this country, not just only this community, where we solve the problem together. It's a promise.
Well, that's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu addressing the issue of security when he went to Katsina State about 2 weeks ago. And you heard what he said there. He did admit that security continues to remain a challenge. And then he outlines what it is that they intend to do, talking about taking back the forest, investing in technology, and neutralizing banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism. I think for a lot of people, the question is how? How do we go about neutralizing banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism? Because as the president did admit, it wasn't like this before. Well, joining us this morning, we have two gentlemen, Mr. Benga Shoson, who is the CEO of Abdax Technologies, is also a security technologist, is joining us via Zoom. Also joining us is Captain Bish Johnson, who is a retired captain from the U.S. Army. He also joins us virtually. Gentlemen, thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you very much.
So let me start with you, Mr. Shoson. I would like to, because you identify, and I use that word very advisedly, you identify as a security technologist. And you heard the president there talking about technology, how we must invest in technology. You would imagine that by now, we ought to have invested quite substantially in such a way that people can feel the difference. What exactly are we not looking at when it comes to technology, involving technology in our security challenges?
Thank you very much, Marco, for this opportunity. Yes, what the president said is kudos to him, is actually admirable, it's commendable, investing in technology, because the event today has gone beyond what we had in the past. We're talking of technology that actually helps prevent incidents from happening. So the thing is, banditry, kidnapping, they are all fueled by invisibility. Like these groups thrive because we can't see them coming. There's something we call visibility. Now, their pattern, there are certain preparedness that they actually go through. Now, the world we are today now is technology helps prevent this kind of thing. We need to start thinking about it from a proactive point of view, like predicting before this incident happens. We can't folding arms and okay, when it happens, then we go all gung-ho, we go all adventurous on it, trying to solve it. No, that can't work anymore. It can't anymore. Now we have artificial intelligence, we have behavioral analysis that can all come in hand along with human intelligence and pinpoint, all right, this is what these individuals are going to do, this is how they're going to go about it. And this technology can even pick up sounds that are not accessible to the human ear. So it's actually commendable. It's actually commendable what the president is doing, but I would say it has to be more proactiveness, not being reactive about it.
All right, let me come to you, Captain Bish Johnson, because I want to imagine, I mean, as an ex-soldier, someone would say once a soldier, always a soldier, and even though, yes, in this instance, when you served, the president of Nigeria wasn't your commander-in-chief, but I mean, I'm sure you understand when a commander-in-chief is trying to reassure the people, and he did mention that he met soldiers at the airport in that particular track of his. I'm wondering, you know, as an ex-soldier, listening to the president, did you think that he really is determined to end the issue of insecurity in our land?
Okay, Moke, thank you for having me on this program. Yes, every president, every commander-in-chief takes office to succeed. They take office to serve the people. At the end of their presidency, they may not meet the expectations of everybody, but they will meet expectations of certain individuals. And there is no nation that is built in one day or overnight. It takes a matter of, you know, this president does this term, does his presidency, another president comes on board, builds upon it, and you continue to build it like that, block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood, city by city, and then you have a country. Yes, I would say that the president is committed and determined to assist members of the law enforcement, the military, and the intelligence community in enhancing their operations in order to be able to take control of security of the country, because that's his first responsibility. His first responsibility is protection of lives and property. He can't be a successful president if there is insecurity everywhere, because every other thing depends on having a secured country where people can go about their normal businesses. The president has talked so many times about bringing investments to the country. Investments can only come into a stable country, a peaceful country. I'm not telling you that you're going to have an absolute security in Nigeria. There is no country in the world where there is absolute security. But you have to have a security that is good enough and to instill confidence, not just only in the citizens, but as well as, in foreign investors and other investors who may be willing to come into the country to invest. And by so doing, they will be creating employment opportunities for the citizens of that country. And the citizens of the country have employment. Those who maybe have been tempted to join or commit crimes will be engaged, and they will be busy doing one thing or the other. So that's how, you have security in a country. So when the president talked about building the capacity of our armed forces, because that's the way for them to function effectively, you have to build capacity. And the way you build capacity is by increasing the number of personnel and also equipping them properly. Increase the number of personnel, you train them, and then you provide them the tools, the necessary tools that they need to succeed. By so doing, you build their capacity. And so as you build their capacity, they will be more prepared to deal with the challenges of insecurity or the challenges of their job description.
I think
so
it's very...
as a person, I have no doubt that the president is committed to doing that, because if you look at the amount of investment that has been done in the security sector, not just the armed forces, the police, the immigrations, the civil defense, it had gone up, considerably over the years since we started having this insecurity problem.
I think it's very important to contextualize what the president was speaking. I mean, the fact that he was addressing the people of Katsina, and Katsina in recent times has really felt the brunt of insecurity as a result of banditry, kidnapping, and it's unsure what exactly is happening with terrorism, but it does appear that there are elements of terrorism with some of the activities around that particular area. And the president was trying to reassure these, the people of Katsina, beg your pardon. For you, you have already said you think that the president, would want to succeed in that particular area. What else needs to be done? I mean, after the president has spoken, to reassure the people that, of course, and he's seeking their support as well for them to be able to tackle it together. What should be the next few steps to build on the words of the president to bring the confidence that the people need to be able to go about their normal duties?
Okay, there has to be immediate actions that will be taken. So it will be immediate, intermediate, and then long-term solutions. And the reason why you have to have it like this is because the people need immediate reassurance, which is what the president is doing, was doing in Kasina, is to provide that immediate assurance. He's the father of the country and the commander-in-chief for that matter, so his words do matter. Now, there have been, surging of personnel and assets to some of all these flashpoints. But the problem with that is that anytime you surge personnel or asset to a particular place, you are pulling it from a different place to that other new place, right? But it's an immediate solution because you have to go in and at least stop whatever insecurity is going on in that place before you now build on the intermediate, and from which you now build on the long term. So surging of troops, surging of assets to the various flashpoints is an immediate action that has to be taken. However, that is not a permanent solution to the problems that we are facing right now. The problems we are facing are multifaceted. It's not just only kinetic measures. You still have to look at the non-kinetic measures, which are issues of governance, local government structures, effective local government structures. The president said it has not always been like this, and I agree with him. It hasn't always been like this. There was a time Nigeria used to be a very, very stable and peaceful country until we now hijacked some of our institutions and eroded them. Some of those institutions include even our religious institutions. What messages are they putting out in churches and mosques? Our traditional institutions used to be part of our security architecture. Then the local government structure and stuff like that. We have to get back to those old days where all of those institutions are allowed to function effectively outside politics, okay? And then we look at our border. Our border is very, very, very critical. Very critical. You listen sometimes, they say some of all these criminals don't speak any Nigerian language. It means that maybe they are coming from outside the country. So we have to secure our borders. Look, if your house is being flooded, right, from a busted pipe, yes, one of the solutions is to bail the water out of the house. But as you're bailing the water, more water will be coming in. So the best way to stop the flooding is to look for the valve that supplies that pipe water, and you shut it. Once you shut it, you have isolated your house from the flood. So what we need to do is to ensure that our borders are secured. The Minister of Interior is doing a fantastic job, in particularly in areas of those who are trying to enter our country legally from legal points. But our problem is not mostly with those who are coming in through legal points. Our problem is mostly those who are trying to come in illegally. And that is where they bring in all these weapons of choice that they use to ferment all this trouble around all these, particularly those border areas and other flashpoints in the country. So we have to invest in border management and border control. That is very critical. But that will take some time. It's a long-term solution. That's why we must build on the immediate and then intermediate, even as we are providing the long-term solutions to these problems, so that the solutions can be lasting. If we don't have the solutions lasting, we'll just find ourselves running in circles like we have been doing in the past years.
Let me go to Ayo in Lagos. I know he also has questions for you. Ayo.
Well, I'd like to ask, thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Shuson, this whole, technology thing that we are talking about, infusion of technology into our security apparatus. Natural question anyone would ask is are we hearing this for the first time? What is it that we are supposed to be doing that we haven't been doing? It would seem as if the insecurity challenges they just change shapes, they shift shapes in various parts of the country. In one part it is this kind of insecurity, in the other part of the country it is this kind of security. It would look like it's like a trade that is manifesting itself in different products. Is it like we lost sight of the real issues? Is it that intelligence has not been working? From your own understanding and your experience, what have we been missing, Mr. Shuson?
Okay, so I'll start from the point of what kind of intelligence has been gathered. the intelligence that had come through, because there were instances where we have seen error bombings that have happened. Now, some of this technology that we invested in has not actually been for the African market. We bring in technology from whatever foreign countries that exist and expect them to work here. No, the data gathered, the human intelligence has to come in place from our own base. It has to come hand in hand for us to actually have a 99.9% accuracy in actually doing what needs to be done. You see, there's a new generation of tools now that changes all that. There are tools that are being built here in Nigeria. They listen, they analyze, they learn the behavior, and they predict the movement before the attacks happen. Like the president was in Katsina. Now, Katsina has been thrown to, it has been one of the epicenters of banditry and kidnapping in Nigeria. Like, communities are living in fear, children can't go to school, farmers can't work, and families are being kidnapped for ransom in broad daylight. But the terrain is a challenge, but it's not necessarily the main issue. The real problem is the lack of real-time intelligence. We can't import systems for the African terrain and expect that those systems will work effectively when they were actually built to learn in a different environment. Now, so the tech itself has to be from this terrain, understand the system, understand the behavior of the people, understand the environment that is networking. And I'm not just talking about cameras, I'm talking beyond cameras. There are systems that listen, they analyze, they learn behavior, they predict movements before they happen. Like in the rural area where most of these things happen, motorcycles, hidden footpaths, and forest edges, they're being used for ambushes. Technology in place now, like my next security friend here just mentioned that it's going to take some time. No, I don't believe it will take that much time anymore. The tech now that we have right now, it allows us to detect abnormal motion patterns before anything can happen. We can stop where groups are gathering in unusual ways. We can know where movement is happening at hours that don't make sense. We can even track who was there days before, even if they come back in disguise. In kidnapping cases where minutes matter, this technology allows faster response by flagging suspicious booking, intercept routes, and even go to the. I can even tell you that the technology in place now can even predict plane crashes before they happen. So it's necessarily what are we looking at? What are we purchasing? What are we taking? Do we necessarily have to go out there when the intelligence is here, when the technology is already being built here? When do we actually go that route? If we go that route right now, I can tell you it will be a matter of 1 to 2 years that banditry kidnappings would actually reduce traffic. And I'm not speaking from a optimistic point of view. I'm speaking from the data and the tech that actually being developed right now.
Okay. Well, Captain, what's your perspective on what he's saying? Because on the one hand is the issue of personnel, the capacity of personnel. On the other hand is the personnel that will use the technology that he's talking about. What's your take on his perspective about infusing technology into our security apparatus? I shudder to imagine that we didn't have it before now, Captain.
Well, we do. We have some level of technology infused into our security operations. When soldiers are riding in MRAP is a form of technology, right? When they're using drones, it's technology. Now, let me say this. For a community that is under attack right now, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours is a long time. By the time you get to them, a lot of damage has already been done. See, developing capacity takes a long time because capacity, like I said earlier, or capability, and like I said earlier, involves personnel and technology, right? Even if you have the technology right here in Nigeria, the soldiers the personnel who are going to use these things must be trained. They must be trained on how to do it. If they're not properly trained, they will not be able to deploy and effectively apply those technology. I agree with my friend there. There are some local technologies that can be, adopted into our services, but those technologies are not coming from within our armed forces. It's still going to be like the private sector that is doing that. And it's like that in every country. All of the equipment that we used in the United States military were never built by the United States military. They were built by the private sector and adopted into the SAPs. And the personnel must be trained on how to deploy and effectively apply these technologies. So it takes time, right? So for somebody who is under attack right now, the person will not get the kind of succor or kind of relief that is needed at the moment. And that's why I categorize the solutions as immediate, which involve the surging of assets, which include personnel and equipment to where there is under threat, and then intermediate, and then the long term. We have to have that, okay? Now, there are some other measures that we can also adopt that may not necessarily require highly sophisticated technology that will require long-term training and stuff like that. For example, I have listened to the Director General of Department of State Security, the DSS, talked about Community Self-Defense and Protection Force. I've been following the DG of DSS, Mr. Adiola Ajayi, and he has a proposition on communities' involvement in their own self-defense, and he has been consistent on this, okay? Citing places where his proposition had been applied and they worked. There's also that has also been called from some quarters within the country for Nigerians to resort to self-help in the face of all these unwarranted attacks going on in the country, you know, by arming themselves. I understand the frustrations amongst many Nigerians with these killings, but that call for self-help in itself is also a call for chaos and anarchy, and I will subscribe to that. But however, I will subscribe to what the director of DSS said. These are part of the immediate solution, intermediate solutions that can be followed up, right? What Mr. Ajayi is advocating for. You know, for everyone in the community, you know, his proposal is not for everyone in the community to arm themselves. Rather, what the DSS boss, from my understanding, after listening to him make his case in several fora where he had spoken, is a hybrid community self-defense and protection force. You know, working with the community leadership hierarchy in flashpoint communities to constitute a self-defense and protection force of select number of stable individuals who will be vetted by both the community and the government and armed with certain class of weapons that are already allowed by the law. Those weapons are everywhere in Nigeria. They're not highly sophisticated weapons. They can be used in this hybrid self-defense and protection force that the DSS boss is talking about. Those individuals and weapons will be known and tracked by both community leadership and government authorities such as the DSS, and they will form the first line of defense for their communities and the hold of attackers, be they bandits, terrorists, or non-government, or whatever, you know, you may call them, until help arrives. Ayo, let's be realistic. You can agree with me that this country is very vast. Over 200 million people, massive land space, a lot of which are not governed. Most of them are in the rural areas. Rural areas in this country constitute more than 50% of the total land mass that we have in the country, and they're largely pretty much ungoverned because they don't have that maximum presence. And if you combine the total number of police strength, the military, the immigration services, the correctional services, the Nigerian security and civil defense forces, we may not have up to 1.5 million manpower strength. And we expect them to be in every community in this country. It's impossible. So it's asking them to do magic.
So, Captain, you are suggesting that we take a second look at the proposal that the DG of the DSS is putting forward.
Yes, yes, I'm suggesting that we take a look at it. He has already do a pilot program of it. We may not have to apply it in every community yet. We have to do a pilot program in certain communities and see how they work, so that we don't end up like the kind of Fast and Fury program that was done under former U.S. President Barack Obama, in which they lost control of that program and have communities awash, with weapons that they were not able to track. So we have to take it step by step, do a pilot program of a few communities and see how it works. I'm particularly interested in that in the sense that the DG himself had cited places where his proposition had been applied and they worked.
Okay.
So if they worked, why don't we experiment that proposition?
I'm going to give you both 30 seconds, and I'm going to ask you first, Captain. What's your own assessment of the Bola Tinubu administration 2 years? It's going to be 2 years on the 29th of May. Would you say that over the last 2 years we have seen an improvement in security?
Well, I am usually very reluctant to assess governments, particularly security-wise, within a matter of 2 years. Because even security is adaptive. Even as you're planning, the criminals are also adapting to your plans and they're making changes. So it's very difficult to say, okay, look, we're not where we need to be. But I've seen investments in the security sector. Although investment is not really the issue, it's where we are making that investment and how we are applying the investments to achieve the result.
All right, Captain. Let me.
So to wrap it up, this is not a problem that was created overnight, and so I don't expect an overnight solution to the problem.
All right. Let me come to you, Mr. Ashosan. What is your own assessment?
First of all, let me just say this. The future of security is not war, it's wisdom. We need more intelligence, we need more foresight, we need more dignity for the people and the personnel risking their lives every day. We can secure schools, farms, routes, and even fresh areas without overwhelming these communities with the sight of weapons and soldiers. And with the president towing that route, I'll say kudos to him. And in these last 2 years, to be honest, there has been a reduction than what we experienced years before. So I'll say at this stage in time, I feel we're on the path to success. But
all right, I think it's a fine place to leave it, gentlemen. We have to thank you both for coming on the program. Mr. Gbenga Ashosan is the CEO of Advax Technologies and is also a security technologist. Captain Bish Johnson is a retired captain with the U.S. Army. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.